life is probably one of the hardest and biggest things to do as an artist. You know, it's really easy to hide behind your art skills, reels and videos of your whips and all the components that come with being a successful artist or just an artist in general. Hey guys, my name is Sanjana and I run this crazy podcast about art, mindset, and art stuff I've been learning through my journey to become the aspiring artist of my dreams. Today's episode is slightly different than what I do every week, but I think it's as important as every other episode. Well, you see, I started this podcast thinking that nobody would actually give a damn about who I am. I guess this issue started to bother me more and more, especially when I asked a close friend of mine to critique my podcast so I can improve it for you guys. So shout out to my 7-year high school friend because this episode is literally inspired by her feedback. You see, because I realized I associated being a great and amazing artist with just posting my art, like polished pieces, not even whips, because who'd want to see that, I wondered. Yet, there's tons of big accounts who have their art out there, so yeah. But honestly, aren't I contradicting all my advice from all my other podcast episodes where I constantly reiterate to separate the art from the artist? Also, I started this podcast to share my mindset towards being an artist, and so how can I share my journey if I'm not sharing myself and not, as my friend said, not my full self, not like where I was born, my whole ID number, not all of that shit, but just my own struggles and how you can relate to it, hopefully. Well, today I'm going to do exactly that, share myself and separate the art from the artist, and I'm going to continue to do this in every other episode going forward. I'm a human too, and not just my profession, and so is a lot of people on this planet. See, one of my biggest problems that I've experienced that affected my art in one way or another is anxiety. And comment down below with a purple heart if you experience it too. Anxiety has been the number one thing that I can genuinely say has made me feel scared to put myself out there as an artist. But as people, we're inspired by the world and people around us, and for me, when Jennifer from Generation DIY made a video about saying yes and just putting yourself out there, I knew I needed to make this episode and put myself out there. You see, in her episode, is it an episode? I kind of feel like every single video on her channel is basically an episode in her life. But in that video, she spoke about getting her ears pierced and going on a date and basically just doing something simple like that she was really scared to, because I guess she was just scared to do stuff. And I really related that to myself, because it was like, yeah, I totally get what it feels like to not be able to put yourself out there and put who you truly are out there, because you're scared nobody really cares about that and who you are, at least for myself. Her video was an amazing example of just going out there and doing everything you want to do and not living with regrets, which I think I'm definitely afraid of. I would definitely regret if in the future me not being my future self on this podcast would make this a failure, because I want to inspire you and meet other artists and hear them stories and get them on this podcast. So back to the anxiety. When I thought to myself what I wanted to achieve here and how my anxiety was stopping me and affected me in doing that, and well, when I say anxiety, basically I just had these thoughts that nobody would really care about who I am, like what my life experiences are, and so I just felt as if there's no need for me to share, to the point where it gave me these anxious thoughts. But these big creators shared their life and their feelings, and what difference is it if I'm doing it? I wanted to find a solution and just think about it in a different way. Like, sharing your thoughts you don't need to share your thoughts and who you truly are only if you're a big creator. Those big creators shared themselves, and that's why they are where they are today. And to me, it really seemed like, let's take it to a different example in my life. To me, it really seemed very, very far-fetched that someone like me could earn and deserve to earn money from their art. Yeah, it just seemed impossible, because if I sum it up this way, basically I've had to ask for permission to do things in my life. So now I'm a grown adult and I can do whatever I want. I'm pursuing my passion. I'm saying yes, and that's scary, but being scared is holding me back. you ever wanted to start anything, an art vlog channel, an art page, whatever it is, but you're scared to put yourself out there, and not necessarily what you create, just think about what you want to achieve and how what you're anxious about is stopping you from getting there. For me, I want to reach more artists like myself, and I want to hear their stories and how they deal with certain issues and hopefully solve some of their problems. So that's why I had to come to this realization and just go for it. Because frankly, wait, hold up. I really need to know something. Who's Frank? And also, when they say mark my words, whoever is this Mark guy? Like, who's Frank and Mark? And why are their names so famous? Like, I don't know if you guys get that with English. Like, there's always like frankly and mark my words, and then people be named Frank and Mark. I'm sorry if there's a Frank and Mark listening to this, but y'all are famous because of these words. Because here I am just trying to talk about how many artists think we deserve less because our art is of love and passions, and we feel we deserve not to earn because of that. But you know what? You Franks and Marks will pay us. Well, how's this, y'all? Frankly, I mark my words, right now we'll continue back to the podcast. So anyways, yeah, a lot of artists think they deserve less because art is our love and our passions, and we feel we deserve to not earn because of that. Because your payment is basically your fulfillment of doing and creating your art, but that's not true, because truly what would make you and me happy is about being able to get the fulfillment of creating art, but also being able to live an ordinary life where we can pay our bills and reach all the things we want to achieve with them. So although I'm struggling with the idea that this amazing career can pay, I'm also surrounding myself with people who actually earn money from their art, and that's inspiring because it's proof that they can do it. They have experienced a life as an artist who can make a commission sheet, have a Patreon, a YouTube channel, whatever it is, and they can have people buy their art or have successful Etsy stores or whatever it is, has really inspired me and kept the idea fresh for me. Seeing artists with like 0 to 10 followers like blow up and get to 100k and monetize their passions, it's inspiring. But I realized I'm doing exactly what they're doing, being a small podcast maker who makes podcasts about art and mindset, but I'm not showing myself, unlike how they showed themselves. And hopefully you can relate to this. You're holding yourself back in one way or another. You're scared to make reels. You're scared to start your YouTube channel. Heck, you may even be scared to post your art online. With this, I'm the opposite. I'm not scared to put my content out there. I'm scared to put myself and my personality out there. So you and I, who are scared of one thing or another, really just gotta show up and do it every week and every day until it becomes basically second nature. Eventually being myself will be so easy. I'd look back on this episode and wondered why I couldn't do it. Same with you, and just doing whatever you're scared to. When you finally do it, you wonder why it took you so fucking long. I think the craziest part of all of this is that I'm actually scared to be myself in real life too, with people who I live with and others I see all the time. And I mean, there's a reason for everything we are. We're all scared for different reasons. And for me, I've lived in past toxic environments where I just had to put on a mask to survive. And so the fact that now I can be my full real self and that people would want to see real me makes me feel like a turtle seeing the light but too scared to come out of the shell to experience this full, beautiful, glorious light. It is the hardest thing because I have this internal voice that actually has an ideal of how she'd want to be, an alter ego, a baddie, if you will. And I think we all have that internal voice that has an idea of how we want to present ourselves. And I think that's who you really are. We always have things to work on, all of us, especially an artist online, when the skills you need are literally endless. In episode 2 of my podcast, I talked about fear and a lack of self-confidence and belief. And I truly believe what I said back then, and that if you follow the right strategies, that you can be on the algorithm's good side and totally get success. But fear, or in my case, not being yourself, can become a problem, especially if you want an authentic audience. People want to see you. They want to see the real you. They want to know your favorite color. They want to know if you're an indoors or outdoors person. And no, they don't want to know your birth certificate information. I mean, that would be really creepy. If they did, they would be an actual serial killer in the making. But people want to know ordinary things so they could be basically like you. They want to know you and no, you're not a boring person. I guess in the beginning, when you start an account on any platform and you post stuff, you feel like you're screaming into the void because nobody is looking at your stuff. You're not even getting any traction and stuff. You're getting no reach, and that's really disheartening to the point where you feel cringy and embarrassed about being yourself. And that's basically how I feel, but I ain't gonna quit. Nothing amazing built today was given all that attention when it was small that it is given when it is huge. Making these podcast episodes has really awoken the spirit in me to just try to be more honest with you, because everyone wants transparency, and so I'm gonna give you the brutal honesty, but also I literally want to overcome whatever I'm facing that makes me uncomfortable being my full true self, because this fear is holding me back from being the artist I dream to be. I can't inspire if I'm not being myself. I can't share the deep stuff if I can't even say my favorite colors if I'm scared of being boring. I mean, come on y'all, that's really dumb as hell. We gotta really separate ourselves from our art. Share yourself and I'll share mine. By the way, my favorite colors at the current moment is must yellow, black, and lavender. And I say currently because the color where lavender sits is always changing, not necessarily the other two. But let me know your faves in the comments down below. You see, I just shared some personal stuff, and it really wasn't as hard as I thought it would be, so sometimes sharing yourself creates a spark for an idea for content. But if you're scared, or how in the frack will any idea just bloom? I mean, it's crazy, Putting yourself out there is difficult. A lot of artists share their life and stories, and some of my fave stories to look at is Lotus Bubble, Amanda Rach Lee, and Loish. They share their lives, and not just because they live interesting lives, but this gives them a deeper connection with their audience and communities. Like for Amanda Rach Lee, she posts selfies and her food, which her followers, including myself, love, and she also asks for their insight on things. Lotus Bubble posts sunsets and sunrise, her coffee before work, and I just love seeing that. A cup of coffee honestly makes me look at her stories. Besides all that beautiful editing she does, it gives this inspirational thought, let me go get a cup of coffee and be productive. Big accounts, their honesty and transparency and sharing themselves makes you go back for them and not just their art. And honestly, I'm sure that they were doing this way before they became big. So we really need to be undeniably ourselves, and I hope every single podcast brings me and hopefully you closer to being undeniably yourself and also getting over whatever fear you have. It's going to be pretty difficult, maybe even internally cringy, but I'll talk a little bit later how I'll incorporate this into my future podcasts. But before that, I hope all of this was inspirational. I wanted to inspire other artists to believe in themselves, to put themselves out there, and also to put myself out there. Because truthfully, I have literally edited out all the part that shows my personality in past podcasts because I felt that nobody would like that. Yeah, there's no words for that. But honestly, my art and the info I have to provide isn't the only thing that makes me, and neither is it that way with you. My favorite reels and TikToks are those where the artist is working on something and giving their thoughts about the piece, giving us this deep and beautiful perspective. And those are honestly the types of videos that get turned into reels. They don't get turned into reels, they get turned into trending sounds because they're deep and they're meaningful and they're real. And being real is what we're all craving in a world with a filter where there's only highlights. And honestly, if you've been scared to do that, make a reel about something you've been artistically going through, I've heard about a lot of artists making reels about art block and what they experienced and how they got out of it. Don't be scared to, because it will hold you back. You never know who you may connect with and who you may touch. Right now, I am being brutally honest with you about separating the art from the artist. I make art, but I also love talking about having a clear headspace for art. I want this to be a safe and inspirational place of awareness for you. I want you to know when you leave this podcast to create your truest and fullest form of art that doesn't just showcase your art, but your strong voice. Valerie Lynn and Ashley King are two amazing examples of this on YouTube. They are two traditional artists who not just make art but also relate their life to art. I mean, art is basically life. And now I'm relating my life to you, saying I find it super weird and vulnerable being myself. The person I am when lo-fi music illuminates my drawing experience, and I just let my thoughts flow, and I'm just comfortable creating art, vibing, and basically being myself. But in real life, I'm a lurker and not just my alter ego. But I want to change that. I think the way to actually achieve anything in life, especially if you're experiencing an issue of some sort, is the following. Well, number one is awareness. Like right here, how I am aware that being myself is going to lead me to more superficial connections to artists when I just want to be genuine. And number two, wanting to change. I'm aware of my fear of being myself, and now it's the idea of accepting it and wanting to change. And obviously, because I want to change, I need a plan. And so every problem needs a solution. And I think my solution is going to be keep making podcasts so I can find the second nature connection to being me. So what I was trying to get at in this episode, if you didn't get it the whole episode long, I struggle to be myself because it makes me vulnerable in a way I'm not ready for, but it's holding me back in my art career. Basically, I also wanted to find out if you relate and what is something you feel is holding you back and you want to change. So where does that leave us? If you feel like I haven't been completely me, well, let's become friends, close, good friends. In every episode going forward, we're going to have a segment called Let's Catch Up, Friend. This episode, we caught up a lot, and I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Anyways, thank you to my friend who inspired this episode, and thank you for joining me on another episode. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, follow it on Spotify and Anchor, and my Instagram is down below, and links to everyone I mentioned too is down below, including my Instagram links. Their Instagram links. Well, anyway, peace. See you in the next one.